Welcome to Film and Page. I'm Dominic, and in this video we're going to be talking about Waco, a survivor's story, a miniseries that I found on Netflix. And I'm here with my co-host,
Marie.
And so this, I'll go first on this. This is a miniseries that's based on an incident that happened back in 1993. And for anyone who doesn't know what Waco was all about, if you're too young or you can't remember, the Waco Siege is an event that happened back in the early 90s, and it involved a religious group called the Branch Davidians. And they were all living inside this compound, and the ATF got wind that they were holding guns. They had some guns, firearms, illegal ones, in this compound. And so then what happened, that resulted in a standoff between the ATF and the Branch Davidians, and there was a firefight. Some ATF officers were killed, some Davidians were killed, and then that resulted in a standoff that lasted with the FBI, because the FBI got involved, and that resulted in a standoff that lasted for 52 days and ended with the FBI tear gassing the Branch Davidians and collapsing part of the building and killing a bunch of women and children and men in that siege. It was a big, huge investigation about, big, huge media stink over it because of how the FBI handled it. And it went down in American history as one of the biggest FBI bungles in a long time. And so anyway, now there's a miniseries about it on Netflix. That stars Taylor Kitsch, Michael Shannon, and Rory Culkin. So I'll let you go first, Marie. What was your overall thoughts on the miniseries?
It was such a... interesting almost doesn't do it justice. Because I remember hearing about it as a child, but I was young. Mm-hmm. I was only... In 93, I would have been 9 years old.
Yeah.
So I remember hearing about it a little, but the only image I remember of it is the scene where the tank is in the house.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, this movie was quite interesting to kind of see more about it.
Yeah.
From what I don't, because like I said, I don't remember much.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, it was a really interesting but infuriating thing to watch.
Yeah.
Because when the ATF show up,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of their actions, now again, this is all based on this account, so we don't know what's true, what isn't. But based upon this series, they got scared by their own people.
Yeah.
Like they show up. Well, it looks like they're about to take over a country.
Mm-hmm.
Like the amount of manpower and firepower they show up at this house with.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, like, that can't be true. How is that real?
Yeah, it was crazy.
And then, the dogs are barking, so they shoot the dogs, and then that scares them,
mm-hmm.
and then they start shooting.
Yeah. Well, before we jump too far ahead, let's talk about just David Koresh and this whole setup that they had there. So David Koresh were leading this religious group that had been around for quite a few years. This compound had been around, but David Koresh took it over from somebody else.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then he was very charismatic, and he had them all believing that he was almost like a messiah, and he had this prophecy that they were going to have to face some tribulation and all this kind of stuff. And it was actually really amazing the things he could talk these people into doing.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And one of the things that made my jaw drop is he had the men convinced not to sleep with their wives, that they all had to take an oath of celibacy, except for himself. He was going to be the one to take on the burden of sex and sleep with everyone else's wife.
Only him.
Only him, which I thought that was actually I couldn't believe that.
Well, and then on top of it, when because he keeps saying he has visions or whatever with God or conversations with God or whatever.
Yeah.
But on top of all of that you just described, he convinced them that God sent him a message or whatever. God spoke to me or whatever it is he says. And not only can he only sleep with all these wives.
Yeah.
And nobody else.
Yeah.
But now he can have another wife that's 12 years old.
Yes.
And her dad's like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was amazing how they could...
You're like, pardon?
Yeah, it was amazing how he could convince these people into these things. Now, he had the advantage that these people were already very deep in this religion, so these were all almost like add-ons he could put in there afterwards, but it was just crazy.
Yeah. was mind-boggling.
And now this story, so we're going to start getting into spoilers because we'll start discussing this a little bit heavier. But this story is told from 2 points of view. One is David Thibodeau, who is played by Rory Culkin, and the other one is the other character.
Oh my gosh, the FBI agent.
Gary Nesner, played by Michael Shannon. So he gives you the because I guess this 6-part miniseries is based on 2 books.
Yeah.
One that was written by Gary Nesner and the other one that was written by David Thibodeau. So you kind of get to see both sides of the story. So now, which one did you find yourself siding with more when you watched this miniseries?
I expected myself to side purely with the FBI.
Yeah.
By the end of it, I hated him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I it's not something that I usually think. Usually I always side with that's who you think is going to be the quote-unquote good guy.
Yeah.
But they weren't. Gary Nesner, he seemed like he was, though.
Mm-hmm.
He was the exception to the FBI chaos.
Yeah.
He was always trying to be the voice of reason, of calm down, relax, be patient.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else was like, rawr, they were just out for blood or whatever it was. They were impatient.
Yeah.
So I definitely found myself, surprisingly, siding with the British Davidians. Not necessarily in their viewpoint, but I just felt more compassion for them.
Yeah, because they really do a good job in this miniseries of setting up what these people are about. They seem, besides them having all these guns, they seem harmless.
Yeah, they're just
and I mean, David Koresh, obviously, that's not harmless. He was sleeping with underage girls. But I mean, when you meet them and stuff, because you got to kind of see that with the undercover agent.
Yeah, the guy that goes in.
Yeah, and he meets them, and then he realizes they're very friendly people, very welcoming people.
Yeah.
And they seem very happy in the situation that they're in. And he's the one that figures out, because they get tipped off that there's guns in there, and he's trying to figure out.
I think it was because somebody had left. I think that they kept saying.
Yeah, someone had left the group, and then that's how they were getting tipped
something
off.
Along those lines.
You never find out who that person was. And then the FTA, they're going to go and investigate, and then so the first few episodes are kind of explaining what these guys are all about, the first 2 episodes, what David Koresh is, how they all work in this environment,
some of their more odd rules, things like that.
Yeah, and then I thought Taylor Kitsch did a really good job of portraying David Koresh too. He looked like him.
Yeah,
he did a really good job.
and he, you can believe him. You know what I mean? It's sometimes when an actor, you don't always fall into the story.
Yeah.
But you can fall him and fall into that story with him, and you can see how these people kind of became so enamored with him because he's very charismatic.
Yeah.
And he played, I don't know much about the real David Koresh, but he played him in such a way that you're like, dang.
Yeah.
No wonder some of these people became so he's amazing. Yeah. I mean, some of the other stuff, you're like, wait, you let him do what? But you know what I mean? For the most part, even when the ATF agent goes in undercover, and he goes over to their house, and there's this scene where it looks like he's about to physically punish the child. And then all he does is give him ice cream.
Yeah.
Right? It turns into this super sweet moment.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow. No, this is how these people got there. You can kind of see it. Yeah. If you take the religion out of it, you can see how they like him. Because the actor does such a good job at portraying that. So, yeah.
And the other one I thought was really good is Rory Culkin was good in this miniseries.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him. I can't remember the last time I seen him in anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He as David Thibodeau.
But he does a good job too, and it's kind of interesting to see his perspective.
Yeah.
Because he's the newest member, so you can tell he questions things.
Yeah, he questions things. Yeah.
And I think Rory Culkin does a really good job in this role because it looked very natural. It didn't look, forced, or it didn't look like he was just playing himself or something like that.
Yeah.
I thought it was, they both did a really good job. I actually thought a lot of the acting, I think a lot was very well acted. They did a great job. Yeah,
and John Leguizamo, how do you pronounce his name?
I can't. Leguizamo or something?
Leguizamo, John. He's been in a lot of movies. But he played the undercover guy.
Yeah.
He did a really good job too. And then another one that was in this movie that I didn't recognize her right away, but Melissa Benoist was in this. And she plays Supergirl on the CW Supergirl show.
See, and I don't never seen Supergirl, but I remember looking at her thinking, I've seen her in something.
Yeah.
Her face seems familiar, but I can't place it.
She played David Koresh's wife in this and did a really good job.
And she did a great job.
Yeah, she was really good in this.
And like you could see like the calculatingness of her character in some ways too.
Mm-hmm.
Like she didn't like sharing her husband. She was his original wife. So you could see she didn't like a lot of the stuff, but she went along with it because she was so entrenched in those beliefs.
So now let's talk a little bit about, so the first 2 episodes basically setting things up, and then where everything kind of story really takes off is the 3rd episode, and that's the one that made me mad.
Yeah. That's the one
that made me mad to watch that.
Said things a little too quickly, but because I got a little riled up. Yeah, that episode, I was angry.
So in the 3rd episode, they're gonna go and bust the Davidians for their guns. The ATF go in there, and but the Davidians find out that they know that they're gonna get busted. So the undercover guy, he tries to tell them they know you're coming, so they call off the bus because they know you're coming.
Yeah, and he's running like a maniac.
And he's running, trying to flag them down, and so no, and they just completely ignore him and go in there all gung ho.
Yeah.
And then when they show up, David Koresh comes out through the front door to tell them, like, you know, because they're there with all their guns drawn, and they've got a lot of weaponry.
Yeah,
looks like they're going to invade a small country.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, and he comes out hands up, like smart. He goes out with his hands up, like it's okay. Hey, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
What's going on here? And then that's where the scene that I was describing happened.
Yeah, where the dogs
because
they shoot the dogs.
And yeah, so they shoot the dogs. Like I said, they shoot the dogs. That scares the other ATF agents
into open. Yeah, well, it's like they scared themselves. Yeah, in opening fire on the Davidians, and that caused and that's where the shootout comes off until finally one of them calls 911, and then that's how
them stop.
Make them
going on.
Yeah, and then that's how they end up drawing the ceasefire.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they bungled it right from the start.
Oh yeah.
And so then after that, that's when the FBI show up, and you know, Gary Nesner gets involved.
Yeah.
He's the negotiator for the FBI.
And I think that FBI agent, however he was portrayed, like I said, we're just going off the story itself, but I think you could tell he wanted nobody to die that day, or at all.
Yeah.
He wanted peace, this peacefully. And you could see the way that, didn't recognize the actor, but the way the actor portrays it, you can see the emotion and the
he
passion.
Did a really good job.
Like you felt like he was right there. So I think he did an exceptional job. Yeah. And it made he was the only person in that FBI side that you were like, yeah. And you wanted to scream at the other people, like, listen to him, stop. Yeah,
because the other 2 guys, like the one guy was played, Mitch Decker was the other FBI guy,
he was the worst.
Yeah, he was just wanting to go in there and use force. It was like a clash of ideologies. One guy just believed, well, you got to use force to scare them out, basically, and
the other guy was like more peaceful.
Yeah, more peaceful. He wanted, and his way was working.
Yeah, it was slow. But
it was slow because he was getting them to trickle out over time, and it got to the point where the other 2 guys just didn't want to wait anymore. They wanted to go in there and use force. So after the 3rd episode, then the next 2 episodes after that is all the negotiation stuff that goes on between, and you got more and more trickling out, and then you kind of see how the media misrepresented the Davidians, and then how they threw the undercover guy under the bus, which really made me mad.
I was furious. I was like, as you know, by the end of this series, I was screaming like, I wanted these people actually fired.
Yeah.
Like I was hoping that when we finished this series, that those 2 main guys on the FBI side
would be fired. Yeah. I looked into it, did some research. The only one I could find out, the only news I could find anything about is I know the director of the ATF got fired over it. That's the only one that I could find out anyway.
Because
from reading up on this,
it's such an interesting thing because they show all these videos the Davidians are sending out to try to show that we're not dangerous to you.
Yeah. We
don't want to hurt ourselves. We don't want to hurt anybody else. Just leave us alone. Basically. Yeah. And you feel for them. And then, of course, the media twists it to like, oh, these evil monsters. We think they're still abusing their children.
Yeah, they're still abusing their
Whereas,
stuff like that.
Gary Nesner's, they show a scene with him and the other negotiator.
Yeah, there's not the second guy,
And they're like, does this look like abused children to you? I've seen abused children. These are happy, well-cared-for children. But they wouldn't let it go in the media of them being child abusers, them being this, that, and the other thing. So you could see that they were fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah. And it got to now in those 2 episodes, either side could have ended it because the Davidians could have just walked out.
They could have just
it's almost like
away.
and David Koresh got too egotistical, and then the FBI had two egotistical guys on there, and then it was like you were at the standoff just wouldn't end.
Yeah.
Because the funny thing about it is they could have ended this way sooner. They could have just picked up David Koresh on his own.
Yeah, why didn't they?
Because if they suspected him of sleeping with underage girls, being married to more than one woman, they could have nailed him for that right there, and then used that as leverage to get the rest of them, or find out what's going on.
Because it even shows when they meet that David Thibodeau, they're at another bar or something, and they're performing. Yeah. So it's like, okay, why didn't you get him then?
Yeah,
just grab him right quick, be done with it, and then go in with a warrant, get whatever you wanted, and that'd be that.
Yeah, and now I guess the last episode is pretty upsetting too.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Because that's when they basically squeeze out Gary Nesner, and then that's when they use brute force, the tear gas. That violated the Geneva Convention. They weren't even allowed to use that on on terrorists, let alone criminals, their own citizens.
Well, and the scene where they get approval for that boiled my blood.
Yeah, because they're
like, we're pretty sure they're still abusing children. How do you know?
Yeah, it's like they're fudging the facts.
You can't even see inside there, first of all. And then the president just signs off, or that's when they make it seem. They make it seem like it was very quick, but it was like, I was just like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Don't you need proof of such allegations?
Yeah.
And if they were, that's awful. But you still need proof, no matter how you dice it. And then they go in and they don't use just a little tear gas. Like, they showed the truck with the big the drums. Yeah, the big drums, and then they use those tanks to smash into the building. And the stupid thing is, they trap them in there by smashing into the building. Then they spray it full of this tear gas, and then they're wondering, well, how come they're not going to know? Well, you just collapse the building, you dummy. Yeah, and they can't get out. Because near the very end, the one guy, the one jerk FBI guy, the one who wanted to go in brute force. Yeah. He goes, why aren't they coming out? What's going on? And then you can start to see a bit of realization. Yeah, he starts to realize. And then there was that collapsed bus, that tunnel. They couldn't get out, and he was trying to pull the woman out. And then he realizes, you can see it on his face. Okay, now we screwed up. We should have listened to the other guy, Gary Nesner. We're screwed. And it's such an intense moment because they show scenes where the kids are laying down, and the mothers are trying to protect them. But they're trapped. They can't leave. There's nothing they can do. Yeah. The children are unconscious or dead or whatever. And then the fire erupts. And it's however that, there's two different theories on how that fire. Yeah, there's the FBI claim that the Branch Davidians started that fire, and the Davidians who survived said they never started the fire. This was actually the tear gas ignited. Yeah, and they show in the series. Yeah, people saying that the history of tear gas ignited. Yeah, it's always ignited. They give you all these examples of how it's ignited so many times. So you don't know. Yeah, that you don't know. Yeah. Either way. But the miniseries implies it was the tear gas. Yeah, the miniseries implies it was the tear gas that ignited, and they all just perished. Yeah. And whereas if they had maybe just put the tear gas in and not crushed the house with tanks, people could have come out. Yeah, or they just kept negotiating. Or if they just were patient and acted like human beings, but they were more like impatient 5-year-olds. Yeah. But that episode made me feel sick. Yeah, it did. Yeah, that was a really intense, emotional, punch in the gut. And it even shows a scene of Gary Nesner, and he's just bawling at home because it's this is the last thing in the world he wanted. That was his whole point over the last, 50 some odd days, 51, 52. Yeah, 52 days. Yeah, so for him, he felt this is a nightmare. And you can see it hit that one FBI's agent's face of we screwed up. Yeah, then you see it realize, we really screwed up. Yeah, it's aggravating. Yeah, but it moves along at a pretty good pace. It does. 6 episodes, yeah. It does. I'm glad they didn't make it any longer. Yeah, that would have been, I think, too dragged out. But it's just that was the right amount of episodes to tell the story. And the other thing I thought was interesting is about when we talk about the Davidians not leaving. They were so convinced they were going to go to jail for life. Right? Yeah. They were screwed. But then it shows that David Thibodeau goes to jail for only 2 weeks. And all the ones that survived, they actually didn't get any charges. Yeah, they didn't get any charges. It was found that they acted in self-defense. Yeah. Shows that even if the FBI didn't come out and say it, yeah, that's their way of saying these guys were defending themselves. Even if they're not going to publicly come out and say, yeah, we screwed up. This is their way of kind of acknowledging it without acknowledging it, so to speak.
So, would you recommend this miniseries?
I would,
Yeah.
very much so, but I would tell people to maybe watch something light afterwards.
Yeah, watch something later because it's pretty
Yeah.
heavy subject matter. Yeah, after this one.
What about you?
Definitely check this one out. It like I said, it clips along really fast for 6 episodes, and it does a good job of dividing up the episodes. Like the first 2 cover the Davidians, who they are. They do a really good job setting them up, and then you got that 3rd episode that ignites everything with the shootout, and then the next 2 episodes after that is all about the negotiating, and then the final climax. They did a really good job. I thought it was
They
perfect.
paced it very well.
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah, I definitely would check this one out. And I don't know how long it's been on Netflix, but it came out in 2018.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, but I only noticed it on Netflix recently, so I don't know if maybe it's just new to Netflix.
Maybe.
Yeah. So I guess we'll wrap it up there. So that's everything we got to say in this video. Let us know what you think in the comment section, and we will see you at the next one. I'd like to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you all in helping this channel grow. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded.